Welcome to Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Daily Truths. I have a couple homebound people that I see every month. Their names are Evelyn and Betty, and they're in an independent living facility in Boulder, Colorado. They're in their 90s, and they're sisters, and they just love each other and care for each other. They're awesome. So every month I go see them, and I give them communion. And yesterday I went to see them, and they said that they're working on this lady who's there who likes to argue a lot. She's also in her 90s, and she happens to be of Jewish descent. And they've asked her, why she doesn't believe in Jesus. Why doesn't she put her faith in the promised Messiah in Jesus of Nazareth? And one of her responses, she's kind of a cantankerous, argumentative person. And she said, the Catholic Church says the Jews crucified Jesus. And that upset her. So now I want to ask you, has the Catholic Church said? I have no idea. I've heard various religious leaders say that the Jews were responsible for the crucifixion of the Son of God. But I want to ask you this morning, who crucified Jesus? Now, sometimes people say, well, the Jews did. The religious leaders of the day, they were responsible for the crucifixion of the Son of God. Or some people have blamed Pilate for the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth. Or some have said Peter, if Peter would have stood up for Jesus, when he was in the courtyard that night, Jesus wouldn't have been crucified. And others have said, well, it was Judas. He betrayed Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. So my question for you is, who really is responsible for the crucifixion of Jesus? And I have two answers. Here's answer number one. We are. It was our sin that caused Jesus to have to go to the cross. Isaiah chapter 53 says this, listen to this. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised on the cross for our iniquities. The chastisement, the punishment that brings us peace with God was laid on him. And by his stripes, meaning by his death, we have healing, namely spiritual healing for the leprosy of sin. Our sin was responsible for Christ having to climb up the Via Dolorosa, allow himself to be nailed to a piece of wood, lifted up on the cross, and dying our death in an agonizing, excruciating way for 6 hours on the cross. We did that. I did that. You did that. Jesus went to the cross because of our sin. So who crucified Jesus? Boom, we did. Okay. Secondly, who also crucified Jesus? This answer may surprise you, but I'll explain it. God, the Father, crucified his Son. Romans chapter 5, verse 8 says, and many of you know this verse very well, God demonstrated his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. All of us know John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. He gave him up to what? To the cross. It was God the Father's plan that Jesus would have to go to the cross to suffer, bleed, and die for our sin. So we're responsible for the crucifixion of the Son of God, but also God the Father said, this is what you must do. And this is why Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane struggled so much with what was going to be happening the very next day. He said, Father, if it be your will, take this cup of suffering away from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. In other words, he knew that God the Father's plan was that Jesus would have to be crucified on a cross as a perfect, holy sacrifice for our sin. And he was saying basically in the Garden of Gethsemane, if there's some other way for me to accomplish what you want me to accomplish in order that people that are lost and condemned might be saved through faith in what I've done, if there's any other way besides having to go to a cross and be crucified, Father, make that way available. And God the Father's answer in the Garden of Gethsemane was, nope, this is the plan. You're going to the cross. This is what I've planned for your life. You're going to go to the cross. You're going to die for sin. You're going to die for sinners because this is what I want you to do. And Jesus basically, under the authority of God the Father, said, aye, Captain, if that's what you want, I will go. So to answer the question, who is responsible for the crucifixion of the Son of God? We are. God the Father is. Thanks be to God. We have new life in his name. Thanks be to God that Jesus was willing to take up our sin and go to the cross. Thanks be to God that God loved us so much that he dispatched Jesus to the cross. Yes, we're responsible for the crucifixion of the Son of God because of our sin. God the Father is responsible for the crucifixion of the Son of God because he loves us so much. The ultimate answer, our sin nailed Jesus to the cross, but God's love for us kept him there. That's what Lent is all about. We come before God with a humble, penitent, contrite heart, repenting of our sin, saying, Jesus, I need you in my life because I realize the incredible sacrifice for sin was rendered by you. And because you did that for me, I bow before you. I give you my life. I honor you with everything I have because, Jesus, you are my all in all. Who's responsible for the crucifixion of the Son of God? I am. You are. God the Father is. Thanks be to God that we have a Savior, a Redeemer, a Lord, a King who is coming back to take us home someday. Thanks be to God for Jesus Christ. And that is today's Daily Truth. Have a great day in Jesus Christ.
Thank you for tuning in to Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman. If this ministry is blessing you, please consider supporting us by sharing this channel with a friend. You can also like, comment, subscribe, or leave a review. This helps us tremendously. Come back tomorrow for your next Daily Truth.